of about 400 people. So there really wasn't all that many kids, so bullying was maybe more, I don't know, up forward. There wasn't so much cyber involved in it. And I am also a foster child. I have been one since I was 8 years old, as well as my younger sister. And what I want to talk about is really how people in my life who have been cyberbullied or bullied in person is how they dealt with it as an individual. And as well, I've been in both situations. I've been the bully and I've also been bullied. So being in that transition from being bullied and feeling like I really didn't have anything to put forward and then going and making other people feel horrible really probably wasn't the best idea. But there are a few stories that I want to share with you guys and to reenact my point about how the individuals dealt with it. Me and my best friend were walking around our high school holding hands and skipping down the hallways, just being normal teenage girls. And someone had taken a photo of us and posted it and called us lesbians in it. So everyone started to do it. They started saying that we were in a relationship, that we were meant for each other. And no matter how many times we had told these people that it wasn't true, or we just tried to ignore what they were saying, nothing happened. So we decided to play along. And we decided to go on Facebook, and we were calling each other sweetie pie and cutie and stuff like that. And we decided to stage a fight on Facebook. And then, so we got in a little fight about the color of her pants or something like that.
I'm very lucky to have never experienced cyberbullying firsthand. I actually just recently got a Facebook account after being persuaded by my friends and my mom at school. I had no interest in social media, and in fact, cyberbullying is the reason why I delayed getting a Facebook account. I've heard so many horrible stories in the media and from people I care about bullying and harassing and people who have been lured online. And to be honest, the whole idea of sharing your life and your thoughts online kind of freaked me out. I made the decision to finally get an account 3 months before school started, just to keep in touch with my friends from my middle school who were moving away. Now, on my Facebook page, I put up all the privacy blocks there are, and I take all the precautions I can, and I'm just very cautious of the things I post, because it's a crazy world and I don't want to get myself in trouble. At times, I've heard other students at my old middle school judge the pictures that people I know have posted online. And that's the reason why I'm so selective of who sees stuff I post. I never want people that I barely know judging me by what they see on my profile page. I've witnessed friends post pictures of themselves online that I would never want other people to see, and all 400 of their friends or plus have access to it, and all 400 of their friends' friends have access to it. I think that's a huge risk, and it's just a way of you putting yourself in harm's way. In my experience, it's my friends who are lonely and who have low social skills that are most likely candidates of excessive internet use and cyberbullying. I've got some friends who spend over 4 hours a day on Facebook. They should be encouraged to be involved in more face-to-face activities as alternatives. I know that me and my friends practically live online. We check our friends' status updates, we watch our favorite shows or movies, we upload photos and videos, play games, write on our blogs, chat on IM, video chat, explore our interests, and access information about our passions. We're all part of the internet culture. True enough, the expansion of the internet through technology has led to many positive developments for young people, such as improving communication and making an available way to access all sorts of information. The internet offers us an innovative and easily accessible way to interact with others. our capacity to learn is constantly challenged with the fast-paced and recent info and news online. However, the fact remains the same that we are all... However, the fact remains that there are serious concerns about the content of how many websites which we all have access to, and also about the ways in which new technologies may be used to exploit people. How could we live without the internet now? It's a place to keep in touch with friends, find homework support, research our interests, and find out the latest news. It has so many advantages, yet so many ways to harm yourself. It's an infinite library that you can visit at any time of the day, and you can learn about anything within seconds. My family has done a pretty good job educating me about the benefits and dangers of the internet, especially sexting and the potential dangers of online communication and smart surfing strategies. She always encourages me, or my mom and my family always encourage me to think critically, and she always tells me that don't post anything or write anything or that you wouldn't say in person. Personally, I think this is where internet safety starts. Educating parents, so parents can educate us.
And these boys thought it'd be hilarious to go on in the middle of my English class, to sit right beside me on their cell phones, and to write this Twitter feed. To have the nerve to say something like that. To say such descriptive and demeaning things about my body. To objectify me as a hey, I want to take you to the smush room. Oh, have you seen the big kahunas on her? The most vulgar, most descriptive comments that one could ever imagine being written online on a 10-page Twitter feed with my name. For every person, if you were to Google, it would pop up. And the next thing they said is, oh, Alicia, don't be upset. I started to cry, obviously, because I was hurt. I was feeling alone and isolated. I was feeling like I had no worth. That $100 bill crumpled and stomped on, forgetting that I had a purpose and I had a value. So I continue to cry, and the person in authority looks at me and says, Alicia, you're just being sensitive. I understand that, you're a young lady, and, sometimes as a woman, things are a little bit more of a touchy subject. It's okay, I know you're a woman. And mind you, this person of authority was a male, said that, it's a woman thing. It's okay, I get it, you're a little extra sensitive. Oh, okay, so I'm sensitive because I'm a woman?
Our cell phones are how we communicate. And it's not really any different to me to have a conversation with someone on Facebook than it is to have a conversation with them in real life. Maybe I use more colon right brackets, but I smile a lot in conversations anyway, so you get the picture. So cyberbullying to me is just abuse with different forms of communication. It's just verbal harassment, except we type it out instead of saying it. And people often bring up sort of the idea that but when you just put it on the internet, you're not saying it to someone's face. Well, the truth is we don't often get bullied with someone coming up to you and saying something to your face. If I'm called a slut on Facebook, the reality is I'm probably not called a slut by that person right to my face. They rarely ever come up to me and tell me that. It spreads through rumors and it's whispered behind people's backs. So the effect is actually the exact same. So I've got a very different view of cyberbullying. And I feel like we need to dismantle the concept that bullying on the internet is incredibly different than bullying in the real world because these things mesh together. The internet is a part of our lives, and it's a very large part of our lives, especially for young people. So when bullying occurs there, then it occurs everywhere, and it bleeds out into everything else. When I was 17, I met a guy, and he was really cute, and I liked him, and he had a girlfriend. But I found out that he didn't really like his girlfriend, he liked me. So what happened is I hooked up with him. And then the night that I did that, I came home and I found a Facebook status from a mutual friend that very suggested that the you in it was me. It was very detailed and very explicit. And it said I was a home wrecker, and I was a slut, and I was a horrible person, and that I shouldn't take other people's property. Which of course is incredibly dehumanizing and problematic all on its own. But the issue is that I wasn't mad at Facebook for this status. And I don't think she thought, this is what I'm going to use for it. She had this thing to express, and she said it to everyone. And so I was never actually angry at Facebook. I was angry at her. And I was almost angry at myself for actually believing this, because I was like, I don't care. And the first thing I just did was delete her off my friend's page, and that was it. And the thing is that I wasn't at all terrified of Facebook. I didn't actually see social media at any point as the issue. What I saw were other people and other people's issues. And that's where I had a problem, was the idea that we could just use this to communicate, because at the end of the day, she called me a slut on Facebook, but she was going to say it to everyone else anyway, which is just the exact same thing. And that's where the problem is that we need to shift our blame from the internet and from people to ourselves. Because what happens is that, especially with sexual exploitation, is that we post things and we say just this constant, don't sext. Just don't do it. I hear that all the time. I've been hearing that since I was 15. Just don't sext. Don't use your phone to express sexuality, which is very weird to me. And that's sort of all I hear when people say that, which is very like, you can have sex, but don't ever talk about it. Just don't text people about it. Just pretend it's not happening. And that I see as problematic. And the shift is just don't post, don't post suggestive selfies of yourself. Don't send nude pictures to other people. Instead of, because they could pass it around. They could send it to other people. You don't know where that information is going. And that's where I see an issue, is that I don't know where that information is going, but it's my fault if it goes anywhere else. And that's a victim blaming. And I shouldn't have been the person to take those steps. Instead of shifting the blame to people who are sending those things around. If I send someone who I'm interested in a sexually suggestive picture, and they feel obligated and the right to show it to other people, and to spread that around, and to post it on the internet, we see it as my problem, as my fault. I should have been more careful, as opposed to, maybe this person shouldn't have been sexually harassing me. And that's never seen as a thing. It's always, you need to be careful so that these things can't happen. And that I see a serious problem with. There needs to be a shift and an understanding that things like sexual exploitation on the internet, like bullying and cyberbullying, which is just a further extension of verbal harassment. Sexual exploitation is a further extension of sexual harassment. If you sexually harass someone in real life, and if you consistently follow them around and you say horrible, very sexually inappropriate things about them, if you cross physical boundaries, it's not that different than if you do the same thing on the internet, where you spread around their sexually suggestive photos, or you say things about them that are sexually inappropriate. There's no difference. So we need to stop shifting that blame. The sexual harassment that happens in the real world, we never blame victims. No one ever is going to blame me if some random guy grabs my ass. But on the internet, it seems when a random guy takes a picture of my ass and puts it on Reddit, then it's my fault for existing. And that's the problem. And that's where we need to change things. And that's what I'm going to challenge you guys to think of, is how do we take all the information we know about cyberbullying, and how do we understand that that's happening in the real world? The internet doesn't exist somewhere else. It's a part of our lives. My phone is in my pocket 24/7. It's on the table actually right now. I'm having some issues. It's so far away from me. But it's just a big chunk of us. And our lives on the internet, I don't have a different life on the internet than I do in the real world. And I spend a lot of time on the internet, mainly on Netflix. But I mean, the movies I watch reflect the person who I am, and the things I update on my Tumblr blog reflect who I am, and Facebook statuses, and the songs I listen to on YouTube, and things like my online dating profiles just reflect who I am. There's no difference between me on the internet and me in real life, so the things that affect me on the internet, when I'm harassed and abused on the internet, I'm still harassed and abused in real life. And I think that's where this language needs to go, and where these conversations need to start going. Cyberbullying isn't separate. Cyberbullying is just bullying.
We're going to take a few minutes and take some questions from the floor before we move to the next presenters.
My name is Shannon Davis-Orman, and I'm from the Department of Justice. And I have a question in terms of, you've heard a lot of talk about when the appropriate place for adults to become involved. What would you view to be a helpful role for adults or different organizations when things are going awry online?
I think we have to analyze this in a real world scenario again, because I'm a really big promoter of the idea that the internet is just real life. And definitely we need to play a role where we think we would play a role in our actual, specifically like parents or teachers, where these children's lives, we feel like we would have to intervene. And I feel like that there's a very big rift between why children don't approach
adults when talking with more on now instead of later, yes.
I feel like because there's a rift between the way bullying happens through genders,
Because the way we're socialized as men and women is that men, shut off their feelings and deal with things in violent and like active manners, while women are socialized to be more catty,